Is there anything new with any of you before we go home? Nothing? How's Home Depot? Boring, you said? Yeah. Alex, right? Anything new? Emily? Colin? Who are your friends? Do you even know them? Do you want to know them? Yeah, they don't really seem that interesting. Do you like anyone in this class? That's too personal. Probably not. Caden? Caden, right? Anything? How old are you? You're 19? Okay. You have a job? What is it? Oh, which one? Somewhere out there, huh? Yeah, okay. Joey? Joey, right? You do the makeup yourself? How long does it take you?
Like 30 minutes.
30 minutes? That just sounds like a lot of time.
Well, if I tried to do it fast, I probably could. But
Yeah. Oh, why? Tammy, what's going on? Anything?
One more thing,
Okay. Lark?
we're getting a exchange student from Lithuania. I'm trying to decipher this manuscript called Coinage. It's from 1420. Heard of it?
So you're getting someone, a stranger, coming and living with you? For how long?
For a whole year. This whole year.
Jeez. Is the man or a woman?
Man, we've had one before in the past. Years ago.
What about your boyfriend?
What do you mean?
Don't you have a boyfriend?
Yeah.
And you're gonna just have a stranger come into your house?
It's through a program. It's very safe.
Very safe. Huh. Never heard that before. Okay. For 1 year. Jeez. It's awful. Good for you. Oh, okay. Well, is there anything you guys want to talk about before we, walk away? Colin? You have nothing. So what was that saying, Tammy, that like young people are curious? I don't find curiosity in this room, do you? Let's give it another try. Colin? Ah. Danielle? Emily? Excellent. Lark?
I don't know what to start with.
Well, if you have something, it's better than nothing.
What about individualism?
Why are you smiling? It's a bad question. It's not a fun thing to talk about. Individualism. You know, I haven't looked at my wife 2 days. She's right there. Don't look at her. We don't even talk. Do you know why? I'm healthy and I'm sufficient. I don't need to talk to her. But I remember just a couple days ago I was sick. And in sickness, you suffer from some poverties. And when you're poor, you're desperate, you're in need. And so I called her, honey, honey. It's a term of endearment, I suppose. Like, I love you, I need you, I this, I that. And so she comes and she looks at me and says, what do you want? You know, some soup would be good. You know, a neck rub would be good. It's okay, I'll do that for you. And it made me thinking, you know, that privilege most often drives you towards individualism. You just do things on your own, eat on your own. You know, when you have a laptop or you have a cell phone, your mom has spent like 5 hours in the kitchen cooking, and you just go home, you grab your plate, and then take it to your room and you sit and you eat while watching a movie. I'm not quite sure which I prefer, poverty or privilege. There are moments where all of us in this class desire to be alone. You want to go for a walk, you want to think, you want to feel things. You kind of go back to your origins, you know. You're born alone, you live alone, you die alone. There are moments, despite being amongst people, you just want to be alone. A couple days ago, I went to Home Depot and I bought this. I couldn't find you there. I bought this 1-gallon redwood. And so I dug a hole, I put this redwood into the ground, but I realized it's far too weak to be an individual. So I also bought 2 giant sticks. You know, so there is a redwood, I put a stick to the left, put a stick to the right, and I tied it with some rope. Just in case there is wind, it's not uprooted. I came to realize that the redwood is far too young, far too immature to be left alone by itself in the middle of chaos. So I tied it up. And of course, the redwood complained, you know, I want to live my own life. I want to move on my own. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I kept reasoning with the redwood. You're a little too young now. Just wait. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I'll remove the ropes. I'll remove the sticks. Then you can withstand, you know, tornadoes and storms and all that. So I chained it. I held it hostage. Individualism is really, really good. Do you have children, Lark?
No.
Thank God for that. You're only 16. Now, one of the things you discover about kids is that, Tammy and I know this well, they're like a year old. You know, they can hardly do anything. And here they are sitting and trying to feed them, right? And so they look at you and they say, Dad, I want to hold the spoon all on my own. You can't even stand, you can't even walk, you can't even talk. What are you talking about? I want to do this on my own. And of course you try to reason with them, but kids are stupid, you know. And so you try to slap them, smack them, but they cry. That makes you feel bad, so you said the hell with that. So you let them have the spoon. And all of a sudden, you know, you see food on the ceiling, on their hair, and you just clean the house. But their desire to be independent, to be individuals, to have autonomy, to have freedom, it starts at such a young age, but it creates such a mess for us parents. And so this idea of individualism without really having the maturity to use it the right way, it becomes a mess. Then it gets to be you at the age of 16. You can stand, you can walk, you can run. You have gained the trust of your parents because you've been disciplined. Your parents have been able to reason about certain things with you and you've acknowledged their wisdom. And so you go home to them and say, Dad, Mom, I'm just going to drive to ABCD. Your dad is not going to say, you want me to come with you? No, your mom isn't going to say that. Just get in the car, on the bike, or just walk, and you go. And you won't come back until like, I don't know, 10 p.m. They trust you. And because of those factors, hello, individualism actually works for you. If on the other hand, they come to realize that you have taken advantage of your independence, your autonomy, and you have taken yourself to a party where people smoke and drink and say stupid things and do stupid things, they come to realize that individualism at this stage, freedom that comes with it, it's not really beneficial to you. Even though you may not know it, you may fight them, you may throw a temper tantrum, but nevertheless, eventually, because you live under the roof, you will submit. And so they'll hold you hostage for a little bit until you grow up and mature a little bit. Then they say, okay, now you can go to NYU, now you can go to Yale or Harvard, they trust you, and we live and pay for the tuition. So there are a couple of things. First, there are moments, all of us in this class, where you just want to be left alone. You want to kind of just figure things out on your own. That's perfectly fine. There are also moments where you realize privilege pushes you into isolation, because when you have money, in your pocket, you don't need a bank, you don't need your parents, you don't need your friends, especially if you happen to have been made into a beast. You know what a beast is, Lark? Hello, Kimi. How are you doing? I'm not well. I'm just angry. Are you? We both hide it really well. You hide it with your smile, and I hide it with my jibber jabber. And so, you guys remember that funny little man we had here who stormed out of this room saying some wonderful, eloquent, mature things as he was leaving? You guys all remember that? Let's create a narrative. Lark, you don't need to write anything down. It's not that important or interesting. Kids enjoy being around other kids. Kids want to open their eyes and see their parents around. Unless their parents happen to be abusive. Unless, Assalamu alaikum. Unless at the age of 2, you've come to realize your parents are divorcing, and you've now got to cook for yourself, clean yourself, laundry yourself, all that stuff. And so from a very, 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 very early on in your life, you're forced into individualism, because you can't trust anyone, you can't have faith in anyone.
What's the difference between
Hold on. And then you turn out to be like 25, 26, 27. You desperately want to be around people, but you haven't been trained. You've been burnt. You've been lied to. Your trust factor, faith factor, they've all been broken. You're rich in anger, but poor in intimacy. And because anger gives you power, you use anger to drive people away. You use anger to justify your short-temperedness, your temper tantrums. that turns you into a beast, despite the very fact that human beings are social animals and we want friends, we want to be in a community, we want to belong. You realize that you've turned out to be a beast after all. And that makes you an individual. You have freedom about everything about yourself. But that freedom holds you hostage. Okay. I'm not really quite sure what makes us an individual, to be honest with you. I mean, imagine me walking through this class and there's no one in this room. What am I going to do with myself? Enjoy the fact that I'm an individual? What am I going to do with my freedom? Talk to the walls? The word individual comes from the word, well, it's rooted in indivisible. Indivisible. It's like the chair you're sitting on, it has 4 legs. Get rid of one and you're going to fall. Get rid of the desk and it becomes useless. Get rid of the back and you fall backwards. For this unit to work, it needs to be whole. I don't know if there are any human beings out there who are whole. I think all of us are fragmented, divided, broken in 1,001 different pieces. Add to it the fact that we have this psychological conflict that lives inside us. There's a part of you that, can I make it a little kinky? Is that okay? Good job. There is a part of you that wants sex, but this other part all of a sudden comes up and says, I don't want sex without love. And so you have sex, but you feel guilty for having sex. There is a part of you that says, I want sex, but I want it with meaning. There's a part of you that says, yes, I love my wife or I love my husband, but you're no longer like emotionally intimate. And even though you have sex, and even though you love the person, the intimacy aspect is missing. You want to pursue music, but you have no money in your pocket. So you do economics, you do computer science, even though you hate them. Yeah.
You say that we're fragmented?
Fragmented.
Yeah. Do you think that that's just how we are, or like society does that to us? I feel like there is like a Native American individual, something like that. It's like society kind of forces you to believe you're individuals, so they can like separate and manipulate us. Do you believe in that? Is that just...
You know, in Japan, for the longest time, the word I did not exist. In the Persian culture, even to this day, I never call my father by his first name. There is to, which is informal, and there is shoma, that's formal. I always call him shoma, like sir. And in our gatherings, whenever someone comes up and says man, like I, everybody like frowns. It's disrespectful. There are like 20 people sitting and use the word I. Why would you do that? There are shame cultures, there are guilt cultures, and there are embarrassed cultures. So let me tell you the difference between them. If you've read Genesis, for those of you in this class, it's a comic book. Many, many years ago. Okay. It's a really, really good text for those of you who like poetry, for those of you who like philosophical and religious ideas, for those of you who enjoy just literature and stories and mythology. So supposedly in this particular narrative, which is somewhat universal, God looks at Adam and Eve and says, you know, there are 1,001 trees in this particular place. You can go to any of them. You can pick the fruit of any of these trees, but there is one over there. Just don't go there, you know. And so, you know, it's like you're leaving the house, and just before you shut the door, you look at your 2-year-old and say, listen, I'll be going for only 10 minutes. I'll be out. I'll be right back. The house is yours. Not remember the Titans, but what was that movie? I'm the king of my life or something, captain of my ship. So you look at this kid and say, you're the king or the queen of this house. Just one thing. I just bought 5 buckets of this delicious ice cream in the freezer. Go anywhere, just don't go near there. Right? And why the hell would you tempt your child? You must be nuts as a parent, but that's besides the point. So God goes away, comes back, and first he can't find Adam and Eve. He can't find the sort of innocence that he once saw in them. That's gone. And when he finds them, he sees them having a leaf or something covering them. They're embarrassed. But more than that, they're ashamed. Shame only happens when you fear something, when you respect something, when you know that someone has power over you. They have power because of their wisdom, because of their experience, because of their age, because of their culture, because they simply happen to be they're your parents. Who the hell cares? But the only way that you will have shame inside you if you hold someone above you. Oftentimes I get students walking to the class with their pajamas. I had a student who just came to class with her underwear. It's a thong. It's like a rope they bought from Home Depot. Now, the first thing you need to kind of grasp is, well, don't you have any self-respect? I mean, do you hold yourself accountable for certain things? Is there a self-image about you? The answer is no. Okay. Do you care for any of your classmates? Well, the answer is no. Do you care what your parents think of you when you dress this way? The answer is no. Do you care for how elders in your community see you? The answer is no. Do you care how your instructor sees you? The answer is no. Do you care if God sees you? The answer is no. And what you realize is that this is a person beyond reproach. It doesn't matter what you tell them. You can't shame them. When the element of shame is absent in you, it means that you have turned out to be a beast. That you don't care for anyone, you don't really have much of a virtue. That's basically an inner aspect of who and what you think yourself to be and want to be. Embarrassed is a very different thing. I say, hey, Lark, look at your pants. You've been attacked by a bulldog, for example. I mean, it's all torn, right? And let's say you read a piece of literature last night, had to do with how young women or young men in capitalistic society should do A, B, C, D, and all of a sudden you get embarrassed because you've shortchanged yourself. Not ashamed, but embarrassed. Or I come to class, I just used the bathroom, I just forgot to zip myself. So I come to class and the Home Depot man there looks at me and says, your zippers, zip it up. Unless I had done this intentionally, which I didn't. It's an accident, I'm a little embarrassed. Guilt culture is a little different. Guilt cultures, like the idea that Christians have. You're born in sin. Every time you're happy, you should feel guilty because you're born in sin. And what is sin? Sin is you living your life for 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years, and you never get there. The promised land is always an inch away. It's your wedding ceremony where you refuse to smile, you refuse to be happy because you know how the end is going to be. Okay. Let's move on. Yeah.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
So it's kind of 2 questions in one. One thing is, my first question is about faking it until you make it, and about people or jobs who hire outside of their community or outside of their employees. For example, you have somebody who graduated college, has a degree, comes in, knows absolutely nothing. And then here we are, left to train them. Do you think that it is fair or necessary for people to hire outside of the job and then have people to train them that knows absolutely nothing. So you have somebody who's been on the job 20 years, they're training somebody who's fresh out of college.
Okay. Can I tell you how I got this job?
Can you tell me?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. It was a sunny day. I'm just kidding. So I get a call. I go to the tower building. And they tell me the interview would last for no more than 20 minutes. So what do you mean? Yeah, 20 minutes. And there'll be no teaching demonstration. And how many people are going to be on the committee? 4, maybe 5 people. And this is a 10-year track, which means that once you pass the 4-year probationary period, you'll have this position until you die. Or unless you do something really just awful to some students. They asked me a bunch of questions. But what they did is when they called me for the interview, they said, these are the questions we're going to ask you. So a month before. So I prep. Now, I don't have any degrees. Most of my degrees have been photoshopped. I paid someone. They, use the right kind of paper, right kind of ink. And so when you're given some time to prep for the interview questions, you do some research. And one of the things that you learn in doing your research is that there are these keywords that you use. I'm a very inclusive, student-centered instructor, They ask you about plagiarism. Yes, I'll give them another chance because of A, B, C, D. And so I lied for 20 minutes. And then I went to the second round. There are usually 2 or 3 rounds to getting these jobs. And then this time it's with the president of the school and the vice president and the dean. So they begin to ask me questions. By the time you get to the second round, you've been trained in lying well, and so you lie some more. And then they call you. Say, we're going to offer you this job, yes or no? Say, sure, I'll take it. And then the 4 years pass by. Now that you realize you're safe and secure, you remove the masks. They realize you're incompetent. You don't know anything, but what can they do at this point? And who cares about the students? Education these days is no longer about students, it's a business. Every single one of you, I don't know if you know this or not, you provide the district anywhere between $5,000 to $7,000. Yeah. So we don't advertise, go to Laney or go to Peralta, go to Yale because we love people to get educated. It's a way to make money, okay? Now, a few years later, we were interviewing someone and we realized they had graduated from Yale. They had 5 PhDs and they knew things in and out, but they didn't get the job. They didn't get the job, I got the job. Because I knew the buzzwords, but they didn't. Is it fair? Well, is life fair? Someone just happens to be very attractive when they come out. Someone happens to be ugly. Where is the fairness in that? Kobe Bryant has talent that I don't. Where is the fairness in that? He has his buddies going to Home Depot. And because of the history he has with those friends, he allows them to take things for free. Yes, you do. I go there. He doesn't know me from Adam. I say, well, let me just take the Coke. He says, no, where's the fairness in that? I like someone in this class, I give them a B. I don't like someone in this class, I'll do whatever I can to fail them. Where's the fairness in that? Have you seen sloth versus like a tiger? The tiger wants to go to Home Depot. 2 minutes. Sloth wants to go to Home Depot. Few years. Where's the fairness in that? You know, at the point I'm trying to make, this idea of being ethical. There is this sixth commandment in the Old Testament: "Thou shalt not lie," or I think it's the sixth one. Well, there are two forms of lying. One has to do with your position in society. The other is just you to yourself.
Yeah.
Imagine that you are my wife. You come to me and you say, "Honey, how was dinner last night?" What do you want me to say? It was awful. You need to go somewhere and learn how to cook. I can't say those things to you. I will lie. And this lying is actually good. It'll protect our relationship. It'll inspire you to cook hopefully more often, hopefully to season you as a cook till we get better, right? Then there is another aspect of lying, which is lying to oneself. Now, lying to oneself is very, very easy because we are deceptive creatures, because we don't like to see things that are painful. If you want to live in society, you have no choice but to be deceitful. You have no choice but to be cunning. Was I qualified for this position? Absolutely not. Were there people much better than I? Definitely. Am I qualified to teach this class? Definitely not. Are there other people qualified? Probably. If they were to walk in, would I simply relinquish my position and give this class to them? No. In the world, you gotta lie. Remember the saying in the New Testament: when in Rome, do as Romans do. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Caesar lies all the time. I mean, I have looked at some of the questions that you guys submit. They're awful. Awful. Am I to assume that you understand your own question? Of course not. It takes many, many, many years to figure out what the hell it is that you yourself are talking about, right? Well, what do I do? Well, to make sure that you guys pass this class so you can graduate and, get a better life, hopefully, I look the other way.
Yeah.
I have no choice but to look the other way. Because if I didn't, you would all fail. I mean, you would.
Right.
Yeah,
And then
right.
they would probably be looking at you saying,
Yeah.
why aren't you teaching it? How come they're failing? Because you might be the common denominator.
Well, no. I vehemently disagree with that because, first of all, learning is a very, 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 very difficult task, nearly impossible. It also depends what exactly it is you want to learn. You can learn how to drive, you can learn how to cook, but can you learn to accept the fact that you're an alcoholic? That's that's difficult. Can you learn to overcome alcoholism? That's even more difficult. So it depends what exactly it is that you want. There are some things that are easy, some things that are nearly impossible. Thank you. So lying to oneself, if you can catch yourself, it can be profoundly painful. Now, how do you live with having caught yourself in the act of lying? You grow a thick skin. As my wife comes and says, "I love you," I'm not going to say, "Honey, I've taken a vow of honesty. And to be honest, I don't love you." No, that'd be foolish. Okay? I say, "Honey, I love you too." But I step a few steps back and I say, "Amir, you know exactly why you say that. You have children. She cooks for you. She cleans for you. She takes care of you. She takes you to Kaiser. Be smart. Don't be stupid." There is this ancient story. By the way, for those of you in this class who are free from 11 to 12:15, October 20th, my late start class will be in this room, World Religions. 3 units, transferable, 11 to 12:15. We meet only once a week. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's either only on Mondays or only on Wednesdays. So if you're free and you have nothing to do, and you like the way I look and you like the way I sound and the way I express ideas, sign up for the class. We have currently 44 people in the class, but I can give you permission codes. They can take it all the way to 100, fire hazard, but they can all, live and die together.
Approve it now?
I'm sorry?
Are you saying that you can approve it now or in October?
No, if you send me an email, that you're interested in the class, I can give you a permission code, and you can sign up.
Oh.
Yeah. If you're interested. So I say that only because I was going to tell you something about the first story that was ever written for us, human beings, the Epic of Gilgamesh. And what is interesting about the story is that there are two physical spaces that you and I can occupy. There's the forest that we can occupy, or there's the city life. The city is where Gilgamesh lives. He's a king, he's a prince, he's contaminated, he's corrupt, he's got poison inside. And there is Enkidu, who lives in the forest. He's innocent, he's pure. I think when you live in the city, such as this, when you live amongst people in a hierarchical environment, the truth is you need to understand the politics of it. And because there is such heavy politics involved, you are forced into doing things that are unnatural, i.e. lying. I mean, consider what they do to children. Tammy, you and I have kids, and of course, this poor woman here soon will have children as well. So, why is there lying in the first place? Having had a dozen kids, I can tell it to you this way. They go out, they say, ice cream, what is that, Dad? It's ice cream, can I try some? You give it, say, wow, this is delicious. Can I have some more? Yeah, until they get diarrhea. But you know how kids are. And so you take them to park, they rush home, and they go to the freezer. And then they say, where's the ice cream? Oh, it went bad. What happened? We found some ants in it. Now it's in the fridge in the garage, but you have to lie to them, right? And imagine you're in the bathroom, you have diarrhea, you're there 5 hours, and you say, hey kid, where are you? I'm reading the Bible. And you come out, they're sitting eating one bucket of ice cream after another. And then they very cunningly put it back in the freezer. You open the fridge or the freezer, look at the buckets, they're all empty. And you look at your kids. Did you guys eat this? No. Yeah. No. Why? Because they understand punishment. They've been spanked, they've been kicked, they've been punched. You've taken away their PS5 Pro. That's a video game, I think. You've taken away their laptop, they can no longer watch porn. I mean, they're only 6 months old, but I mean, these days, warp speed, everything. So, and you realize that, well, for kids to pursue anything, and even for adults to pursue anything, you have no choice but to lie. First because we don't really have the capacity for honesty, because honesty is a little too much for us. So we are forced into lying, and it happens from a very, very, very early stage.
That's interesting because kids aren't really taught to lie, but they do it anyway.
Yeah, they have to.
But how do they even know they're lying? It's
well, it's not that they don't really have the concept lying, but they have experienced punishment. Sit in the corner. You can't play with the cell phone. You can't play with your friends. I'm canceling our trip to Costco. And because punishment usually comes with a good amount of psychological pain. And if you beat them up physically, it comes physical pain. They know exactly how pain feels, and it's not pleasurable. So to save themselves, they lie. Good for them, by the way. So, yes?
If they learn to feel guilt from lying, then would being transparent be more comfortable for them?
Well, you have to train them to feel guilty.
So doesn't punishment do that?
When they get caught. You're not going to feel guilty unless you get caught. Now, there are two ways of getting caught. Either I will call you to my office, Lark, and I say, listen, I read your essay. Let me show you something. I turn on my computer. I do something with ChatGPT, and every single line in your essay is right there on the screen. ChatGPT, I caught you. The other is you go home, you're writing, you happen to be tired, you happen also to be lazy, and you sit and you say, you know what, I'm just going to have the computer do this for me. AI do this for me. And as you're doing it, you say, Lark, listen, you're creative, you're a genius, you write well. Shut off the computer. Just do this on your own. And what you have is you can either get caught by yourself on your own, or you can get caught by another. Now, for you to get caught by yourself it means that you have experienced certain creativities about you, and that has inspired you. It has grown wings on your sides, and you've flown really, really high. And you see how you are ordinary, and you see how you are when you're inspired, and you like the way you're inspired. Okay? Not because of time factor, because of lazy factor, just being human and busy with this and that. You realize you want to grow wings and you want to fly like before, but the world has you. And as you want to go back into the world and do as Caesar does, you catch yourself, say, give this another try. Go for a walk, wash your face, take a shower, do whatever you want to do, sit and see if you can do this. Okay. So if you haven't had an inspired moment for yourself, there's a good chance that you're not going to catch yourself. There is this movie that came out with Tom Cruise many, many years ago, The Last Samurai. I don't know if any of you in this class have ever seen. Joey? Wasn't it a good movie? What is it with you people? Everything is for you just so mediocre. You know? Do you ever say holy shit? Have you ever been constipated? You have? So when you're constipated and you try to push, does anything come out? No. When it does come out, is it a holy moment? Absolutely. The Last Samurai. So what you have in the movie is this man who's a soldier. And, when you're in the military, you're a yes man or a yes person. You're always obedient to your superiors. You believe in justice. You believe in all that slogans that they kind of give you and tell you. And so he was commissioned to go out there and kill a lot of Native Americans. But during that event, something happens to him. He begins to slowly ask, why am I doing this? But the question is far too honest. And the question is far too burdensome. Hello, Abi. And so, not having the tools to carry this cross the right way, he does what most of us in this class do. He drinks, he smokes, he porns, he does whatever he possibly can to make sure that these questions are just thrown under the rug. Okay? There comes a point where he no longer can. And then he has to be trained slowly. And that's where the samurai community comes in. They slowly train him how to deal with his past, what it means to be a soldier, And from that point on, killing for him takes a very, very different definition. For the first time, you know who the enemy is. The enemy is these Japanese and American soldiers, okay, or British soldiers, who are there to destroy the samurai community, who live their lives by a certain code, And so from that point on, there is this inner aspect to Tom Cruise in this movie, where he knows what right is, what wrong is, what steps or what lines he can cross and what lines he can bend. I forgot your question, so I'm not going to ramble on. Yes. Aman. Your hand was up. I saw it up. So you have nothing to ask? Adrian. Almi, right? What'd you say it? No, no, please.
Think of something.
Caden? Alex? Anything? Joey? Kim? Emily? Danielle?
Starting to wonder about something about conscience, but I don't have it formed into a question yet.
Imagine that you rent a room from some family, and it's a 3-story building. You live in a mansion. You have rented a room, it's on the 3rd floor. As you walk up, you see this music coming from this room. It's on the 2nd floor, your room is on the 3rd. And curiosity is very natural and organic. You kind of look through the cracks and there is this young woman. Are you a hetero? Because if you're a homosexual, I would say, it was a man. So there is this young woman dancing, and she happens to be like completely naked. Are you a visual animal? The answer is yes. Is human body something to look at and enjoy? Depending on the body, of course, and all that, the answer ultimately is yes. And so you realize this is a very young, very attractive, voluptuous young woman dancing away. Are you a Christian? The answer is no. No. So you just, you're a Christian, but let's qualify. You're a Mormon. So, you're a Mormon Christian, which means that you can love as many women as you want. Like Joseph Smith. So there you are looking at this young woman dancing away, and it's not like you're an artist, or you like music, or you like the creative arts. The only thing you're enjoying is this woman dancing. It's like free porn. And one of the things about pleasure is that when the pleasure is intense enough, you don't think about the past. You don't think about the future. You're consumed by the present. You're in the moment. All this idea about like sitting somewhere and just feel the moment, all these YouTube gurus that tell you, just find something you really, really enjoy. It becomes a little tricky because then you have to kind of talk about what exactly is valuable, the thing that gives you enjoyment. But all that aside, you're having lots of pleasure. So, and there comes a point where you say, you know what? Well, the music is shut off. Now she's gone taking a shower, putting her clothes on, all that stuff. Then you go to your room and you do whatever you need to do. Like read the Bible.
Are we not born with guilt and like Genesis is?
No. Let me put you on pause for a moment because your story is really exciting. There are certain communities where mothers have to nurse their kids anywhere from 4 to 6 years. And they have to travel all the time. They're what we call the nomadic cultures. And one interesting thing about nomadic cultures is, how long you been with your boyfriend? 2 years. See, you have occupied that piece of property for about 2 years. In those 2 years that you've been with this young man, you have created lots of stories. And even though you may physically remove your physical body from him, emotionally you're connected. When you're a nomad, in other words, instead of saying, I've had this boyfriend for like 2 years, let's switch the scenario that, say, every week I go out with a different man. And so what happens is that you fail to form relationships or intimacy or emotional connectiveness with any of these people. So for you, being with someone, sleeping with them, and walking away becomes very easy. And there is no guilt. And so nomadic cultures have a tendency of not having the sort of attachments to the land that you and I do. You say, I'm an American, I love this land, and I will fight to protect it. You know, someone in a nomadic environment says, listen, you want it, fine, I gotta leave in like 5 minutes. You know, you want to destroy it, good for you. Go do whatever you need to do. So, because always nomads know that whatever you accumulate over the course of your stay will eventually have to be left behind, they also come to realize that just in case your parents die and you bury them somewhere, you're not going to go back to the burial site. Okay? You have a very unique way of looking at life, very unique way of looking at your land, looking at your home, looking at your family, looking at life. So if you're like moving and you got like 3, 4 kids, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these are their ages, and you realize that the path you're taking, by the time you reach your destination, it's going to be like 6 months, but you got 2 kids, and your body can only produce a certain amount of milk. What you're going to do is you're going to leave the 2 young ones in the snow to die. Are you going to feel guilty? No. Is your committee going to punish you? The answer is no. Is there a God who's going to look down and punish you? The answer is no. And all of a sudden you realize, if you live in America, if you leave your kids out in the streets to die, someone will be bound to make you feel guilty. Either God, either you having read the Bible, your parents, your brother, your sister, someone in your community. In the Inuit environment, the answer is no. And that brings us to a very interesting place, which is the values that we form in life. They're usually given to us by other people.
Yeah.
Nothing is hardwired. I mean, do you have children? Well, thank God for that. You still don't? From 5 minutes ago? I mean, one of the things that, do you guys mind coming to class on Wednesday completely nude? Well, the answer is no. But if you had a 6-month-old baby and they had just pooped their pants, well, you had no problem putting them on this table and changing them. Is this infant going to be like without clothes? Yes. Will you see their private parts? Yes. Is this infant going to say, oh, don't look? The answer is no. Why? They don't really have that just yet. Okay. So shame, guilt, remorse, repentance, all of these things are given to us by the outside. And that's where, forgive me, your first question about individualism comes in. One of the best examples, and I don't really know if this guy actually like existed. You may have heard of his name. His name is like Jesus. You guys, anyone in this class who's read the Gospel of John. It's a very, very interesting book. It's unlike the synoptics, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Right, Colin? Good job. You know, he uses the word I in that book about 50 times. I am this, like I am great. I am beautiful. I am wonderful. I am light. I am bread. I am this. I am that. Now that is called being an individual. You know, all these are ridiculous Jews. You know, I mean, they are ridiculous. You know, we don't work on the Sabbath. Jesus comes and says, you know what? I'm going to look at this very, very differently. My life belongs to me. If I see that there is a man dying on the Sabbath, I am going to go help him. Does it work? Absolutely. I decide what Sabbath is. I decide when Sabbath is. I am the lawgiver. Now that is an individual. who has an inner core. You know, it's not like coming to class. How many of you smoke? A hand goes up. Why do you smoke? I like to. That's because you're stupid. That it's kind of like, you know, initially when you wanted to learn how to do multiplication, you had to learn the table, you know, over and over and over again. Now, if I ask any of in this class, what's 7 times 9? Sure, it'll take you some time. 63. Do you go back to your like first grade teacher? No. Do you like Google on your phone? The answer is no. You are what they call autonomous when it comes to that. The answer lives inside you. You don't need the Bible. You don't need teachers. You don't need your cell phone. It's very organic and natural. Okay. Now going back to your question about conscience. So every single day as you're going to your room, you say, you know what? I've come to realize that at 3 p.m. every day, this young woman is dancing naked. So instead of going home at 1 and then missing the show, why don't I just go, we'll start walking around 2:30. By the time I reach him, it'll be 3 o'clock, and there she is. On one occasion, what you do, you stop by at Subway, you get yourself a foot-long turkey sandwich, and you get to the door at 3 o'clock. The music turns on, there you are sitting, having your foot-long Subway sandwich, and she's dancing. And she's not even aware that you're sitting there. As you're eating your sandwich, a hand touches your shoulder. So, oh, maybe it's Jesus Christ, he's here to watch too. I know, Tammy, you're disgusting. But you turn around and there she is. It's the mother. Looks at you and says, what are you doing? What can you say? It's the devil inside me, you say. I'm not to be blamed. And all of a sudden, because of this touch on your shoulder, you come to realize in that moment that you've invaded this woman's privacy. It's something you shouldn't have done. Fear overcomes you. Is she going to kick you out? Are you guys going to allow the 3 of you sit? Are you going to confess? That becomes your, repentance, the booth. And so the point I'm trying to make, going back to Lark's question as well, is that conscience is this story that lives inside you, and it's dormant, it's sleep. When someone pushes this button, it wakes up and it reminds you. And that reminder makes you feel guilty. That's the birth of conscience. It's like right now you can eat your food like a pig. The moment as you're walking, to your car, there's this homeless, a woman. Okay? She's old. She's on a wheelchair. You can just look at her and see the wear, a tear, and it just makes you feel bad. You're just eating right in front of her. And then you, out of guilt, you also come to realize who she is, what she is, i.e. her humanity. You put your hands in your pocket and you give her a 20. If it wasn't for that woman, if it wasn't for your background, you wouldn't have cared. One of the best movies that you can watch in regards to the birth of conscience is American History X. Did we talk about this movie? We probably have. And what you have is a white man who has no remorse about killing a black man. But in prison, his life is saved by a black man. That creates a story inside him. When he gets out, his best friends become people of color. So, a good amount of who and what you are really depends on who you surround yourself with. My nephew, have you guys seen him? No, he's in. Do you have to leave? Oh. My nephew, when he was going to NYU, he was a lazy student. He had this roommate from Saudi Arabia who wanted to be a lawyer. He was in the library about 15 hours a day. And because they got along so well, every time he went to the library, Arman, not Aman, but Arman, went with him to the library. So now when I call him, say, Armand, what's going on? I'm in the library. He's in Ohio right now. What are you doing? Studying. If on the other hand, he had a roommate who was a smoker or a drinker or a porner or just slothful, he'd probably be homeless right now. So just in case you see someone with certain good qualities, have those people around you. Those people will create buttons inside you. Okay? If you're like a lazy student, hang out with a student who's really serious about their academic stuff. And that will rub off of you. And that will birth a conscious about you. Every time you want to sit and watch a TV, this button gets pushed. Go do your work. If you hang out with your own kind, lazy, useless. So, yeah.
One more question to add. I'm sorry.
It is so rare.
Yes.
This is like a miracle.
Absolutely. I agree.
Can like backfire where the lazy person rubs off on the student's person?
It depends how disciplined the other person is. If, for example, it's my second day towards sobriety, second day, and you're like a professional drinker, and you say, hey, Amir, what's going on? You want to like become sober. But right now I'm just, a social drinker. I only drink like 20 hours a day. So, okay. And you say, well, what are you doing right now? Nothing really. And, the second day, it can be overwhelming, a little sad, a little depressed, a little angry. Too much crap going on inside me. And the reason I became an alcoholic because I can't really resolve my issues. And then you tell me your sad stories, all of a sudden your sad stories mesh with my sad stories, and then your shit comes out, and then my shit comes out, and then both of our shits find themselves in a bar somewhere, and we're just both, yeah. If on the other hand, I've been sober for like 12 years, then when you come to me and say, let's go drink, I say, well, how about we drink water, or milk, or juice, yes. Coffee. So it really depends on the stage. That was really good, man. See? Give me another one. Come on, another one. Oh, you're one of those slow relationshipers. Okay, we'll do slow. Abi? I'm sorry, Tammy.
I was just going to ask, can you erase your consciousness?
We fluctuate. There was a movie some years ago with Kevin Bacon. I think it's called Death Wish, if I'm not mistaken. I may get the name of the movie wrong. Bruce Willis also played in a similar movie. And they're both the same, which is you're just a father, you're taking your kid to ice hockey, and you love your family and you love people, and you're getting some gas for your car. Your kid is in there getting some drink, and this person with a mask comes in, and ABCD happens, the boy gets shot. And this father, like any regular father, goes to the courtroom, wants to see that this guy who killed his son get punished. But there's this back dealing that has taken place. This guy is set free. And he can't live with that. He can't live with the fact that some guy murdered his son for no good reason, and he's now just roaming around free when in fact his son is dead. And so he goes looking for places to buy weapons. And then he starts killing people, the gang. And the point I'm trying to make is, depending on your circumstances, depending on the events of those circumstances, depending on the impact on your body and emotions, a whole host of things about you can change. There is nothing permanent about us. You hang out with, say, Snoop Dogg, he'll create certain buttons about you. You hang out with Angela Davis, she'll create a different set of buttons about you. And what will happen is, if Angela trains you the right way, every time you want to go back to the Snoop Dogg stage, the buttons created inside you by Angela will make you feel guilty. And those buttons will punish you. Can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
It's a really like awful story. So when I was 19, I was working with my own teacher for about maybe 10 or so years. And one of the things that he had asked, he said, Amir, listen, if you want to work with me, there are a couple of things you can't do. You can't smoke. I said, Hussein, I just don't smoke. You can't drink. I don't drink either. And you can't have sex. He said, what? So, and so he said, for the next like few years, you can't do this. I said, fine. I was at the car wash. This young woman said, what are you doing tonight? Why are you laughing?
Because your stories are so random.
The what?
Because if your stories are so random, like they just.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, I was washing cars and, you know, it's Roseville and it's really, really hot and you can't really work with your clothes on because it's so hot. Because it's like another, don't you guys understand anything? Anyway, so he says, yeah, I'm not doing much. You know, I took it very innocently. So we go to some Chinese restaurant called Chopsticks. We have some food. And then she leans over and kisses me. Yuck. I mean, it was really nice. But it was like both enjoyable as well as very uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable because of the kissing, but uncomfortable because of Hussein. And then she said, let's go to my place. I said, no, I can't do that. Let's go to my place. I'm just kidding. You guys are just not fun, you know? So I said, I can't do it. So I get out and I drive straight to my teacher's house and I break down. And the point I'm trying to make is sometimes you can go back to, again, Snoop Dogg, but you get punished because of it, because certain things about you have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Abhi.
One you had said that some people are like different.
Yeah.
What events or things can shape or not change their
Okay. So for those of you, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm in this room from 9 to 10:15. So if you're like roaming around and you're not busy, you know, you like these ideas, feel free to just come by and sit. So a question comes from the discussion we had in the class. There are many typologies out there. There is the Chinese version, there is the Armenian version, there is the Jungian version, the Indian version. So the one that I was talking about the other day had to do with the Asian version, which is 4 elements. That the moment when you're like 4 or 5 months in your mother's belly, a lot of things begin to happen. One of the things that happens is your temperament is given to you. You're either going to come out as fire or water or air or earth, okay? And there isn't anything you can do, okay? Just to give an example, by nature I am passive. I am reserved. Part of it has to do with culture. The other part has to do with just who I am, okay? And so when you come to my office, you realize I'm very, very, very different. My voice is different. My body language is different. Just my energy is different. I always go back to the person I've always been, okay? Now, before you can actually get there, a couple of things happen. Imagine that you are made of water. Water is passive, okay? And imagine that Kim here is made of fire. Now, fires happen to be very creative as well as very destructive. She's chaotic. She gets into relationships. She has plans for her relationship, and then she does whatever she can to crap all over it. That's what she does. Okay. Now, let's say because you're made of water and because you're passive, it's very difficult for you to get into relationships. Kim happens to be your sister, and you want to be like her. She's bubbly, and every party she goes to, people like surround her like she's honey, and people are like flies. And you say, well, how come nobody comes to me? I mean, I'm a fun person. I talk about things that are interesting. Why are like all these people going to our chair? And then because you haven't yet understood your nature, envy grows inside you. You say, I want to be like her. So the point, first of all, I'm trying to make is it takes a long time for us to figure out our nature. Okay. Jesus Christ, okay, he's a guy who is made of air. I mean, not air, but air. Air happens to be more abstract, non-tangible, a bit more spiritual. Okay? He doesn't much care about things down here. Moses, on the other hand, is made of earth, very grounded, very solid, very dependable. And it takes a while for you to say, you know what, I am Moses-like. And someone say, I am Jesus-like. I don't really care what Moses does. This is who and what I am. Okay? Each element functions differently. Each element learns differently, expresses themselves differently. Okay. Now, before you can actually figure out who and what you are, at least what your nature is, you're going to have envy, jealousy, resentment, anger bubbling all around you for a long time. First of all, most people are not really interested in these things, and it's okay. Life is busy. There is, food, shelter, clothing. It takes the majority of our time and brain space. Okay. Once in a while, you sit back and you say, why is my brother this way and I am this way? Why is there such a huge difference between the two of us, despite having come from the same parents? Okay. Because temperamentally, okay, 6 months into the womb, you've been programmed, and there isn't much you can do. Now, if you're made of fire, what you can do, you can make modicum adjustments. That when there are moments where you want to lash out, like a volcano erupt with intense emotions, through having read some books, maybe talk to your therapist, maybe talk to your parents or friends, instead of coming out and being somewhat, chaotic, you'll be a bit more passive. But passivity is not who and what you are. You've trained yourself in that. You don't have to train yourself to be chaotic, but you have to train yourself to be a bit more passive.
By elements, are you talking about core self?
No.
Because that's what society, we're guilty about what we've been taught, what we've been told, but elements, that sounds like a core self.
Temperament and self are two different things. Temperament is something that is hardwired into the self. The reason why yeah. The problem I have with most of the questions and the language that people use, myself included, is that I get to my office around 4 and I write for the next 4 hours. And so in the course of writing, I come upon temperament. That occupies about 5 hours of my time. Then all of a sudden I get to a place called self. That occupies another 2 weeks of my time. And I then open the stuff up to see what lives inside them. And that may be just me, maybe I'm just weird, where when I open the stuff, I realize, well, I have to inject things in them. I have to figure out what and who they are. I can't just talk about self like a self. It doesn't work that way for me. Then I say, okay, inside this self, there's a temperament. This temperament is not created by people. It's not created by society. It's not created by YouTube. It's not created by anything. It's just given to you by some force. You can call it God. You can call it biology. You can call it DNA. It doesn't really matter what name you want to give it. But that has nothing to do with yourself. All of a sudden, this temperament gets into a physical body. This physical body has a good amount of DNA in it. You are half your mom, half your dad. Okay? Okay. And there isn't much you can do about that. Unless you want to be like Kim Kardashian, putting yourself under a knife and those things, okay? Now, you were born in year 2000. That's the blossoming of the internet. You are a child of technology. There isn't much you can do about that. That part of you is socially manufactured. Now you live in Oakland. Before Oakland, you live in America. America has some core values. The pursuit of happiness, individualism. That is who you are. You're culturally formed, structured. Okay? And then from that, we reduce it to Oakland. You also smoke. That's the Oakland culture. You also use a lot of slangs. That's the Oakland culture. That's another thing that's injected into your body. Okay? You also live in a system. It's not socialism. It's not communism. It's capitalism. Okay? So when you talk about self, there are all these things you have to consider. Now, these days, we have to add your skin color. We have to add your gender. And it gets really, really complicated to the point where you realize that intellectually, you're suffering from paralysis. You don't really know what the hell you're talking about anymore.
But so many things can be in a person. But do we have like a core self? Because people have told me like since I was like a baby, I've had like the same personality, and I feel like that's the same for a lot of people from what I've heard. Is that still just
so there are two ways I can respond to that, and that comes from my own experience. You can either born to be a Magnus Carlsen. Okay, he's a chess player. At the age of like 6 months old, he realized he's going to want to play chess for the rest of his life. He is right now worth about $120 million. Okay. He didn't have to train for it. He just had to be exposed to chess pieces, a chessboard, and all of a sudden he fell in love. Okay. There are other people like me. I was a complete loser. Okay. I didn't like education or academia. I was confused. I ran into a man, Hussein. Okay. He knew what he wanted. It's like right now, you're like, let's just say you're 18, you have no idea what you want to do, where you want to go, who you want to be. Then you run into me. Okay. You're not ready for marriage. You're not ready for a relationship. But because I am solid, I slowly move you towards that direction. By the time you're 20, you're ready for marriage. You're ready to be a mom. You're ready to be a dad. You're ready to be a sister, all that stuff. All of a sudden you realize I become the main person who made you into becoming solid. In the absence of being a genius like Magnus, and in the absence of running into a Malcolm X or a Martin Luther or a Mahatma Gandhi or a Jesus Christ or a Socrates, you are left to your own devices. You got to roam around the world like a rat to figure out what you're good at, if anything. Okay? And then at the end of the day, I assure you, you will be like the prodigal son in the Gospel of Luke. At a certain point, you realize you're no longer young, you're no longer attractive, you no longer have the energy. You know, most of your riches have been stolen by life. And then you say, I want to go back home now. I'm tired of running around. The problem is, there is no home to go to. Your mom is dead, your dad is dead, your siblings are dead. And we're just talking physical home. Emotional home, that doesn't exist. I mean, it's no joke where about 60% of Americans being depressed. I mean, that's really, really tragic and alarming. You know, so this idea of self, it's a very, very profound concept. And for those who are interested, it should be taken very seriously. And let someone make you. Don't make yourself. If your dad says go to school, go to school. Don't listen to your 16-year-old brain. It's no good. Your dad, despite the fact that you may not like him, despite the fact that he may be an addict or a drunk or whatever, he's come to learn some hard lessons about life. Now, it may be true that he's not able to change himself, but that's besides the point. Wisdom and applying wisdom are two different things.
That was good.
I get lucky. It's like those dates I used to go out on. Is it time? See, you're doing better. Aman, Wednesday.
I'll try.
Good job. Thank you.